Hello everybody, Zeidoktor here, and this episode of the Typical Manga Review is going to be dedicated to My Hero Academia Chapter 107, What Denki Kaminari is Thinking. And we open up with, and since the title has Kaminari's name in it, we're going to start up with him and Bakugo, fighting who I've been referring to so far as Beady Eyes, but in this chapter we're going to get his actual name as Seiji Shishikura. So I'm just going to use that, unless I just feel like not doing it. We open up with Bakugo explaining his new rapid-fire technique, the armor-piercing autocannon, basically. And Kaminari is pretty much noting that Bakugo seems to be hated by pretty much everyone around him for pretty much the same reasons as ever, like just because of his hot-headed personality. And meanwhile, BDI Seiji is just annoyed at himself for letting him of all people, be taken in by that fool. Oops, sorry. And Kaminari is noting that all the gross stuff that was scattering around is now coming back to him. Seiji is thinking to himself how, with Bakugo's impulsive mentality and tendency to resort to simple provocations, like those traits are solely due to his overly prideful nature. Is basically what he's thinking about this. He thinks Bakugo is too full of himself. And I can't help but think that pot kettle applies here. But he sends out like little finger things at the group again, at the duo, declaring that he's going to break them with his own hand and force them to understand that behaving in a manner appropriate to your affiliation, appropriate to your place, is a true definition of dignity. Bakugo just wants to murder him so he'll shut up. When Kaminari's got around, like, dude, this is an exam! At which point he pulls out Kaminari, while he's doing that, Kaminari pulls out a cartridge from his belt and loads it into a device on his arm. It almost looks like a little, like, game ray gun or like dust buster or something. So declares that it's time to just finish these things up quickly, but the finger things are actually, he's able to dodge, and the finger things, oh, sorry, misreading the panel there. He launches them out, but the Seiji's able to dodge them. It's like, alright then. And Seiji knows that flying projectiles are going to be annoying, so you'll probably have to round them up first, but that comes at the cost of ignoring Bakugo, which is never a bad idea. Of course, he hasn't actually, because apparently one of the meat fingers, he had them go under and over the bridge that they're fighting on to catch Bakugo from behind. And now Bakugo starts getting like crumpled up and packed up like there. And this is where we get the guy's proper name, Seiji Shishikura, with his quirk listed here as processed meat. It's pitiful. Start over and try again next year. And the narration points out that he can crumple up human flesh and completely change its shape. It needs people's bodies and confines them by rolling up into a ball shape. And he's made his body completely his own, and he has a high degree of freedom in controlling it. He apparently can cut off portions and manipulate them freely, mix and mash his flesh together and enlarge it, and so much more. So he's got a pretty good amount of control over his quirk, from the looks of it here. Kaminari is freaking out, and Seiji's explained that this is what's referred to as a show of force. And because in the exam only an exceptional minority are allowed to pass, and yet with All Might retired, we reached the turning point of the era. And under normal circumstances, wouldn't it be better to increase the number of active heroes as much as possible? Like, in other words, get more people out there. So, in other words, the implication of this exam is to weed out the useless ones, to get rid of the riffraff. Pick out the cream of the crop, and make heroes take heroes even higher than before. And Seiji agrees with this completely, which is why he'll continue to reject all of the UA group as he has been. Like, Kaminari noted that he's pretty much ignoring the whole objective of the exam just to do this. And Seiji pretty much it's strange that, Kaminari knows that this is kind of a strange way to go about it if he's just going to ignore the exam for that, but Seiji shoots back with that. It's strange that such a plebeian like him dares to stand with such pride in his eyes. And even in that form, and he also explains that even in this form, the victim's sense of pain and such will still function normally. So if Kaminari tries to electrocute them, he'll harm them as well. And Kaminari's like, you've been pretty much just mouthing off at us for a while now, haven't you? You know, it's actually kind of effective. I wish you'd stop. Seiji thinks is because it's like that's because you know your place. So you know I'm telling you the truth. So you should just reflect on that, like. But Kaminari's like, no, I'm not talking about me. And then he throws something at them. It apparently looks like it's a grenade or a bomb. Like, the fact that it explodes though makes Seiji aware that Bakugo should have been still rolled up. It's like, but it's actually just like a fake out. It's like just actually an actual bomb. And Kaminari explains that by wrapping up explosive components, Bakugo can actually create simple grenades. And the Kaminari's like, I asked him once if they were actually just an accessory or something, and he told me about it after he snapped at me. And Seiji realized that at some point Bakugo passed on those grenades over to Kaminari. By the way, Mr. Know-It-All, you just staggered into a pretty interesting position, you know. And apparently what he's done is he's positioned himself right in between one of Kaminari's earlier fired projectiles. And because of that, he's like right in the line of Kaminari's fire. And as Seiji's like getting electrocuted, he's realizing that this is exactly what Kaminari wanted. Because then we go to a flashback of of Kaminari talking to Hatsume. It's like, and how the weapon works. Like, her and Power Loader work together to make it. Apparently, the pointer sticks the thing he fires is called the pointer. It sticks persistently. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Gotta make sure I read this out correctly. Sorry. But basically, like, the gist of it is basically that Kaminari fires off one of his projectiles. It looks like a little disc there. And as long as he stays within 10 meters of it, his electricity will be focused on that point, in that direction. So, for One Piece fans, it's very similar to Nami's Thunderbolt Tempo that's used to end the Khalifa fight. Basically, it goes from one starting point to whatever her end point is, or his end point in Kaminari's case. And if Hatsume also explained that there's multiple points set out, he can actually choose which one through dials. And he can also, and his advisor can also like update positions and keep him up to date on that. He's actually saying like, I get the feeling you want me to be strategic here, but he's glad because this means he can use his quirk without worrying about damaging the people around him, because it's otherwise been very indiscriminate. In the present, he's thinking that he totally gets what Bakugo is doing. Like, even though they were under enemy attack, he even then was still avoiding large explosions and kept hitting with the new technique, which had a restriction on the range, all to avoid hitting Kaminari or Kirishima. So out loud, he's telling Seiji like, he may be a potty-mouthed asshole, but he's actually more serious than most about this hero thing, you know. Like, that strategy gave me grenades to get out of a tricky situation. Pretty smart, don't you think? And for Kirishima, I mean, he just marched right into enemy territory like this. He's a good guy to the point of being stupid, huh? You only heard bits and pieces about it, but go on acting like a know-it-all. Quit, like... And then he's just like, quit dissing my mates, damn it! Like, Seiji's like, I'm telling you to know your place, you idiot! But his attempt to go on further gets interrupted by Bakugo and Kirishima just clotheslining him. And it's like, depending on how much damage you take, it seems your meat prisons get cancelled. No wonder you only fight at long range. So Kirishima thinks Kaminari. Bakugo thinks him in his own special way. Took your damn time! Of course, and like, you guys are the worst. No wonder you guys are getting messed with. It's like, never mind that. Because he's pointing out that pretty much everybody else that Seiji had gotten is also coming out of their ball for him. Bakugo's like, oh, I know. So he is ready for this. So is Kirishima, actually. He's at least has a decency to sweat a little bit. Shifting gears, we now go to the trio of Deku, Uraraka, and Sero. And between what we see here, we see a bunch of boulders being attached to Sero's tape and just floating out there. Flies right into they go flying right into the melee. Yep. Like basically just like a quick and easy way to get some attacks going in there into the group. And then while they're dodging, Sero's pretty much grabbing them up. Yeah. each time like Uraraka noticed he was hiding and waiting for the right moment to do when everyone's positions were safe from the debris, so they wouldn't actually get hurt. And we get an announcement that there are 76 people who have passed now. And then with time running out, the others are going to come attacking. So let's take what's theirs. Sarah's telling them. One of the guys that's got taken down is like, "You're first years, right? Come on, give us a break. There's no way we can go on without getting our provisional licenses here." Deku actually hesitates for a moment, but only to tell him, "Me too." And yeah, cause that's just as true of me. So the number of examinees goes from 76 to 79. So they're progressing at a good pace. Deku's worried about the others, but back in the stands where everyone's watching, we see the Muppet Man. Like he's like just noting that once again, there's a pattern you can kind of pick out from these things. The UA team, which is somehow consistently hard to score against, has not lost a single student so far. So all 20 of them are either passed or still in the game. And we do actually have a group of them that have passed. Actually, we got Yayo, Rozu, Tsuyu, Todoroki, Shoji, and Jiro. So we got at least 5 of them who have passed so far. So, well, 8 if you count the 3 that just did. Also, I just now noticed Mineta's got a Kochikome eyebrows here. So that's a neat little thing, because they actually have that manga's actually just finally is ending after 40 years. So, little tribute there looks like, which is actually freaking everybody else out because you got a Shido, Tailman, I can't remember his actual name, and Hagakure, and then but basically everybody's still fighting. Like nobody failed yet. So instead, the Muppet Man is declaring that it's time to make preparations. And we get a group of people declaring that lively youths like that are all the more worth messing up. And then, so it's up to these guys for the next phase of the exam. And apparently, what we've got here are a bunch of really old people. I mean, I say that, but that's exactly what it is. Like a bunch of people just like hunched over, wrinkled. There are a couple like others in there. Like there's like a kid with headphones upside down, what looks like a baby, and so on. But it's largely like older people there. And that's where the chapter ends. So I think it's going to be assumed that the most or all of UA is going to beat this first exam without too much trouble. They're all going to get to the first stage there. Of course, the second stage looks like it's going to be trickier because if One Piece has taught us anything, old people are freaking powerful, especially when they're hyped up to be freaking powerful. And these guys are being hyped up to be freaking powerful. So we can probably expect something big to happen here. Don't know what kind of weird variety of power we're going to get with those guys, but actually, I can actually see this. Actually, I'm wondering if the whole idea of the second exam is going to be the difference between power and experience. Like these guys might not be very powerful, but they're so experienced with their quirks, they're going to be like way more dangerous. Sort of like how when we saw Gran Torino training Deku. It actually makes me wonder if Deku will probably be smart enough not to underestimate this, because he's fallen for this before. I also wonder if these people are maybe like old-time students of the hero schools or old teachers, or just people who've like been part of the game for a while in some form or another. Ooh, retired villains are a possibility too. Actually, I wonder if that's actually something we might see. Like retired villains, like who have actually reformed or reformed villains in general. Like that'd be a good way to give them like experience. But right now, we got some. But in this chapter, it's Kaminari who really takes the limelight here. Like he's like much like Deku and Baku, he's found a way to control his powers, make them like less indiscriminate, and it looks like also to make it less able to short circuit himself, like where he doesn't like fry his own brain. And you also got Kirishima and Bakugo just doing whatever. I did like Bakugo in these last couple chapters, just because I like it when like really arrogant, haughty guys like Seiji are just like torn down. Like those are kind of like a villain like that just getting an enemy like that just getting like trashed. I love that. I'm a sucker for that. I am pleased with that whenever it happens. I don't care what the circumstances are otherwise. In fact, there's at least a couple episodes of Doctor Who where it's like you get villains like that who don't get the comeuppance, and I'm not actually very fond of those particular episodes. I'm talking classic Who for anyone who's not aware. Let's see here. What else did I want to bring up? I think it's I don't know. I think that about covers the main things here. We've also got like, at the very least, we know for a fact that just under half of the group has passed. Like we got the 5 in the waiting room already, Deku's team. So, like I said, it's like I already said. It seems like we're pretty well engaged to see them all pass. Whether that'll stay true in the next couple of exams, it's a little harder to say, but we'll see about that. I did also like Deku's part where it's like the older students pretty much complain like, we can't go on without without passing this test. It's like Deku's like, me neither, and just wins it. It's like, yeah, they both got their goals. Like they're not really enemies or something like that, but at the same time, Deku's got his own ambition here. He's got his own way to go. I wonder, now that I'm wondering about this, I wonder who will be like number 100 because I am fully expecting that to be like UA student number 20. And I'm, and like I said, the way I've been thinking, I wonder if we're actually gonna see Mineta be like the last one to do that. I could easily see that, but I don't know. And that's for the ones who actually did pass already. I like the fact that we got Asui in there, Chuyu. So, like, mostly because he's one of my favorites, so I'm glad he's not in any danger of dropping out anytime soon. All right. Also, I'm kind of interested to see what the duo of Ida and Aoyama looks like, because that's one of the panels on that page. Like, Ida and Aoyama are together. We got Mineta, Ashiro, Hakakure, and I cannot remember the Tailman's actual name. I know that's what he called himself for his hero name. I just can't remember his actual name. Right. We also have Sugarman, Koda, and Tokoyami together. So that'll be some interesting stuff to see there too. But for now, I think we're good to go on this chapter. So we've got a neat little setup here with the army of fogies. Oh, speaking of which, one like they're all kind of dressed similarly, but on the far left of that final page, one of them's got like a Zoro outfit on, like the Taramaki sass and everything, and a nice hat. He's got a nice hat there. But in any case, for now, that has been the typical manga review of, like the summary and review of My Hero Academia, chapter 107. What Denki Kaminari is thinking. All right. You have a good rest of your day and have a good week.